Well, you shouldn't leave toys in front of me.
Yeah, well, I thought we could discuss those because a couple of people asked what they do, what they look like, what we use them for, how much they cost, why you would bother to use them, why you'd bother to have them.
Yeah. Well,
and then we'll record all this so that people can listen in on our conversations.
Well, yeah, well, we can talk for hours about this stuff, and that's what we normally do, so it's good to try and capture it all. I saw it in one of your videos on M3. What exactly is it doing? Is that the...
So we'll get these out of the way so you can see properly. So, it's a gloss meter.
Gloss meter.
And it measures gloss. And the way it does that is by shooting a laser at the surface.
Oh, okay.
You can see the two...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So a laser comes in at 20 degrees.
Yes.
And if it leaves at 20 degrees, it's perfect reflection.
Oh, is that how it measures it?
Basic physics tells you that angle of incidence equals angle of refraction.
Yep.
So if a light comes in a certain angle, it leaves at a certain angle, and that's 100 gloss units, and that's perfect.
Oh, wow.
A perfect surface, which technically is possible, but realistically probably never achievable. And anything off 100 is obviously less and less gloss. 20 degrees is also the correct angle that you should use to test high gloss surfaces. There's a whole bunch of different gloss meters, and if you use a 60 degree or an 80 degree, and there's various different angles, and they're for testing different materials, and some of those units are cheaper.
Yeah.
And the 20 degree, a dedicated 20 degree gloss unit generally is more expensive.
Yes.
But that's the proper angle you should use for high gloss surfaces like automotive paintwork and glass and things like that, and that's why we use that machine. And this is just so we can statistically give a customer a gloss figure. So we can tell the customer, this is how glossy your paintwork is.
This is where we started and this is where we finished.
Yeah, we don't say, oh yeah, it's definitely glossier than it was.
Here's the actual
say,
data.
Here's what it was before by taking a reading, here's what it is now. You also take a bunch of readings and average them out, and you get the mean reading in the machine, which is good. With the older machines we had to write all the results down, and then use a calculator to measure them out, and we used to spend a lot of time doing that. This machine just makes it much quicker.
Absolutely.
So that's all it does. All it does is give you, the customer, a statistical reading. It tells you exactly what the gloss was, not how the detailer interpreted whether that gloss was higher or it was lower, but exactly what gloss level you have. I had exactly this many gloss units.
Right.
And provided it's calibrated, it's actually very accurate.
Alright, so with anyone that's a detailer or any enthusiast that really wanted to go crazy on looking at their gloss units, they have to go, alright, 20%, that's the angle I'm looking for.
Yeah, 20 degrees. Yeah.
20 degrees.
Yeah, that's it. If you want to purchase a machine, you can purchase it for as little as $1,000. A good one. Anything under $1,000 is not really that accurate. It's just a toy, and you're probably not worth getting it. Do you need it? Not really.
No.
Would I spend $1,000 on a gloss meter if I was an enthusiast?
No.
No way. Absolutely not. And unless you've bought everything else, you've got everything. You've got all the equipment you could possibly need, and you still want to throw money at your hobby. And detailing hobby's not expensive. $1,000 is not that much.
No.
Yeah.
People spend a lot more money on their hobbies than that.
Yeah, photography.
Yeah.
You look at 20 grand worth of gear here, and it's not the best gear either. It's really easy to spend money in hobbies, but detailing is actually not that expensive. But that's an optional. Not a machine that you would. Not a piece of equipment you'd buy first.
No.
Yeah, you invest in some other stuff before you buy a gloss meter.
Oh, of course, absolutely.
Yeah, it doesn't really help you to achieve a higher gloss finish.
No, but still, it's impressive that you're using this.
Actually, it does. That's wrong. It does. It helps us. What this machine is good for, and what we use it mostly for, is when we're testing polishes.
Oh, right.
When you're testing polish and you're putting your polish up against a revision of your polish, or you're comparing it to a competing product or something else, you want to make sure that you are actually getting the gloss and it's not perceived gloss.
Yeah, well, you're actually measuring. You're not going, like, that looks glossier to me.
There is actually a difference between a gloss level, an actual statistical gloss readout, and perceived gloss.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
I don't think we'll get into I don't think we'll get into that now. We should have another conversation about that. That's pretty intense, and a lot of people won't understand that. And you have to really get into it. But yeah, something can look glossier than it actually is.
I'm really impressed that you
and that will tell you exactly how glossy it is. Yeah.
I'm impressed that you actually go that far with looking at stuff like that, and you're in depth that far.
Yeah.
As far as detailing, I mean that's.
Yeah, well, customers deserve it. They actually, we're not the most expensive detailers around, but we're not cheap, and customers should expect that we go to this.
That service level.
This level of
That's incredible. And this one on micron.
This one's an old machine. We don't use this anymore.
Okay.
But it's a lot smaller, and I can demonstrate it to you. It's an ultrasound thickness tester, not just a paint thickness tester. It will test a whole bunch of different materials.
I've seen a couple of panel beaters with these things. Similar.
Yeah, similar machines. Yeah, they're all. Well, no, they're not all similar. This one's actually not that cheap. This will set you back a few $1,000s.
Oh wow.
Quite a few $1,000s. This one's not optional if you're a detailer. You must. If you're a high-end detailer, you have to have one of these machines.
Why?
I'll go from the start because it makes it a lot easier to explain from the beginning. A magnetic thickness tester works by putting a probe down onto the surface. The magnet finds the metal substrate, and the majority of mass-produced cars, substrate is the panel.
Yep.
Is
steel.
Yeah, is a ferrous material.
Yeah.
So it'll react with the magnet, and it'll give you film build readings. So it'll tell you how much distance there is between the panel and the top layer of clear coat.
Yes.
That's all.
Yep.
And a lot of people say, that's great, now I know how much paint I have to work with, which is not true.
Yes.
It gives you an idea, but it doesn't tell you how much clear coat you've got to work with, and detailers only work with the clear coat. It tells you how much something there is between the paint, between the substrate, in this case steel, and the top layer.
Of the colour.
So if there's this much bog,
yeah,
and there's this much paint, and there's next to no clear coat,
you don't know that.
It'll give you a good reading, and you say, well, I've got plenty of meat to work with, and you hoe into it.
And all of a sudden you hit bog.
And all of a sudden you're ringing up the customer very embarrassed.
Yeah.
What the ultrasound machine does, besides allowing you to test on a number of different substrates, so aluminium, plastic, carbon fibre, you name it, anything. It will not only tell you, this machine, an ultrasound machine will tell you what the film build is if the substrate is non-ferrous.
Yes.
But this particular, actually not this particular, but the ultrasound machine we use will tell you how many layers of different film build there are and how thick each layer is. So then we can look at a top layer and say, well, that's obviously clear coat.
Yeah.
And this is how many micron we have to work with. And we know from testing how many micron each of our combination of pad and polish removes. And then we know how many micron we will remove of that clear coat for that particular service. So if you're coming in for a transformation, we know that we'll remove up to 1 micron. And if we've got 20 micron to work with, then that's safe.
Right.
You also have to leave behind a certain amount of clear coat so that it has some kind of structural integrity. If you thin clear coat out too much, it'll just eliminate. So you can't say, I've got 20 micron of clear to work with, therefore I can take 19, I can remove 19 off, which is a hell of a lot, and you'll never do that.
No.
And a lot of people ask, if I polish my car, if I get a cut and polish, we don't like to use the term cut and polish, like paint correction, and not because we're snooty, it's just because we think it's a proper term, and we're trying to distance ourselves from the detailers that use the term cut and polish. But if you're using a cutting compound, you would have to be doing wild things to remove even 2 micron. Even wet sanding barely removes 2 micron.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So a lot of customers who are worried about film build removal shouldn't be, provided they're going to a detailer who knows what he's talking about, even if he hasn't got this equipment.
See, the perception that I always got was with wet sanding. When I saw that, I'd be like, oh my god, that's really abrasive.
It is very aggressive. Yeah. No, you're right. It is very aggressive, but it's nothing to worry about. provided
It's something I wouldn't
Yeah.
actually try as an amateur.
Yeah.
I just go, well, professionals, you got to do that.
You
because
can
I don't
make-
know. I don't know how
you
far
can
to
make
go.
mistakes. It's not something non-professionals shouldn't be attempting.
Mm.
It's not something professionals who have never attempted it before should be attempting on a customer's car.
Yeah.
Should have a test panel, and they should really know what they're doing before they attempt it on a customer's car.
Yeah.
But it's not as it's very aggressive, but it's perfectly safe provided you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that machine comes in handy for obvious reasons.
Well, obviously now, yeah. Now that you explained it.
Well, more and more cars. We did a BMW a few days ago that had plastic panels, had a carbon fibre roof. I mean, nearly half the car wouldn't be. You wouldn't
You wouldn't be
know
able to measure
what
it.
the film build was using a magnetic paint thickness tester.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it had been painted already too, a couple of times. So it had varying paint thickness levels. They're all good. They're all more than enough. So if we didn't use the machine, we wouldn't have been in any kind of trouble anyway.
Mm.
But generally, if it's not a brand new car, or if we're not sure of the history of the car, we'll run a test. And that's another good machine where you can take many tests and average them out.
Yeah.
It'll give you a high point and show a red light and make an audible alarm. It'll show you a low point. A high point is good. If it shows you a high point, means something's wrong, means there's some filler or something. Your machine might even be not calibrated properly,
All right.
not calibrated correctly. If it's too high or too low. So
Yeah.
if you're not getting normal readings, don't just say, well, this car's been resprayed before. Then don't jump to conclusions. Maybe recalibrate the machine again, and just make sure that it's working properly. Yeah, so it gives you a high point, a low point, and then it'll give you the average. And the average is usually what most of your figures will hover around that average.
Yeah.
So it tells you this car has on average this much film build and this much clear coat. And there is a high point here, which might indicate some kind of filler or something.
Yeah.
And there's a low point here, which might indicate that it was aggressively, the film build was aggressively removed in that one section. You avoid that section.
You would use this on bespoke work, or you'd be using it on transformation minimum, or just
Everything where we think we're going to remove up to 1 micron, which
you'll
add
double check.
close to 1 micron. Yeah, we'll double, triple check with that. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that was absolutely worth doing. Yeah. The time, the labour cost is labour is the most expensive component of any detailing work, but it's a cheap form of insurance.
Yeah.
The last thing you want to do is be on the phone to your customer, ringing them embarrassed.
Yes.
And then you can still make mistakes. It's not foolproof.
Yeah.
You can still make mistakes, but it's a cheap form of insurance. Yeah, if you're not sure, just take at least a couple of readings. If they don't look good, take 100 readings. And if that panel doesn't look good, do the whole car.
Wow.
Yeah, ring up the customer and say, look, we found this and we'll need some extra time. It will take an hour to do 500 readings across the car.
Yeah.
We need an extra hour. And the customer will usually say, no problem, go for it. And our customers usually say, I'm happy to pay for an extra hour's work, and I'd like the readouts, or I'd like your advice based on those readings, or whatever.
Yeah.
It's usually not a problem. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
You want to take it home, don't you?
Oh, I do. I do. I want to go play with it. I love playing with things like that. I love it. With new cars and paint protection, I noticed with one of the cars that I brought in my mother-in-law's car, like they sting you for car delivery and stuff like that. And
they the dealers.
yeah, and you get your car done, it's all nice and clean.
Yeah.
Then I bring it to you, and then you find flaws.
Yeah. Oh, look.
And
Yeah, we get this a lot, and in general, I don't want to be really careful what I say.
no, I understand.
Just because I think it's unprofessional to slander anybody.
I'm not asking you to slander, but
Yeah, even
I
though
can pick the differences. That's
Even though
okay.
we're not mentioning any particular companies, I just don't think it's good to slander in a certain type of business or to a certain industry. But in general, we found, and most detailers will find, that dealers generally don't do the best job of presenting a car.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are very, very happy with the way their car looks. The majority of people, and that's probably why it won't change.
Yeah.
And the people that aren't happy are our customers, and they're a very small percentage of the new car market.
Yes.
Most people don't look at the car and say, I'm not happy with the way my new car was presented. They might not be happy with one or two things and the dealer will fix it for them. Also, there's an industry standard. Most dealers meet that industry standard.
Yep.
And it's only in our eyes and in your eyes and in the customers within our circle,
Enthusiasts.
that the enthusiasts that find that standard is far too low.
Yeah. We want more.
Yeah, we expect more. We think it's not unreasonable to expect more, considering the fees that go into the dealer delivery fees that go into presenting that car. Some of the delivery,
Some are a little bit ridiculous.
yeah, some are really poor. They don't remove labels that they should, like fuel consumption labels. Stock labels are left on the car.
Really? I don't think I've seen that yet.
Hydrocarbon waxes, which are the soft yellow waxes that a lot of imported cars are coated in to protect them during transit. They aren't removed properly.
Wow.
Then they dry rock hard, and they look ugly, and they're impossible to remove once that component has had, or once that wax has gone through so many heat cycles. It's concrete.
It's a little concerning since we could bring in so many different cars and we import so many cars. That's a big percentage.
There's a whole bunch of different dealerships. There's different prices. It's a tough game too. We know that a lot of them don't make any money on the sale of a new car.
Yeah.
So it's tough to kind of put that time into it. Very rarely, in my opinion, is it the detailer's fault. It's usually time constraints, cheap materials and things like that stop them from doing the job that they want to do. Sometimes it is. Some tradesmen are just lazy and not that good. Sometimes it's a mistake.
Yeah.
I bet I've made mistakes. I don't know when. I'd always encourage a customer to come back and say to me, I think you missed this, or you did that. But
you're only human. You can make mistakes. It happens.
But it seems, and you're right, and a lot of detailers will think I'm being too lenient. we'll say that the dealers don't do anywhere near what they should be doing to present a brand new car.
So what makes your paint protection better than everybody else's?
The paint protection, the materials are very, very, very good quality. Very good quality. We think the best in the world. We think we've got the best paint protection in the world. And it's a polymer.
Yes.
It's polymer base, which we think is the best type of paint protection to use. A lot of people will disagree, but we think the sheeting characteristics from polymers are still the best.
Yeah.
And sheeting is the most important characteristic, not beading.
Okay.
And we can go into that, but I'm sure you know why.
I know why.
But sheeting is better than beading. Sheeting is what you want. You don't want water beading on a surface. You want the water to evaporate and have the minerals etched behind. You want to get as much of that water off the surface as possible. After raining, after car washing, things like that, you want all that water off the surface as fast as possible. And we think that polymers encourage sheeting more than any other type of paint protection product. Secondly, and more importantly than the materials we use, is the application.
How it's applied.
How it's applied. That means more than anything. Yeah.
Do your prep work right, your finished product will be better.
Exactly. Yeah. Paint protection's a coating.
Yep.
Just like house paint. If you apply house paint to house and you haven't prepared you haven't done a prep coat and done something half decent. You haven't prepared what's underneath. You haven't got good foundations. It's not going to adhere, and you're not going to get the best results. So there's no point buying the best coating possible. If you're not going to provide that coating with the proper adhesion, or the properly prepared surface, so that the product can adhere properly and provide that longevity and provide the durability and provide everything the manufacturer's claiming it will provide. Well,
the reason why I was going to bring up paint protection and how long I think it's been familiar with me within the industry, 10 plus years, that's when it sort of grasped me when I started buying cars. I wasn't aware of final inspection, I wasn't aware of your products, I was buying stuff locally. And I started getting frustrated very quickly because I wanted to wash my car and then I go, oh, I've got to put a wax on it, I've got to put a seal on it, I need to protect it.
Yeah.
So then I put 2 layers of wax in it.
Yeah.
And you have conflicting stories of what kind of wax or Carnauba wax or what kind of sealant is supposed to be put on it.
Yeah.
And then I go to wash the car the next week and then it's all gone.
Yeah.
And then you get really frustrated really fast. I keep washing my car, I keep putting wax on it, spending 6 hours every weekend.
Yeah.
Cleaning my car, I'm over it.
And those characteristics you wanted don't last long enough.
That's right.
Yeah, especially for the effort.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Cost, yeah.
But when I started using your product, it was totally different because I found that your soap is totally different to everybody else's on the market, the way it was working for me.
Yep.
And your wax, when I apply it, I'm only spending about half an hour now instead of hours upon hours. Once all the detail was done, the upkeep is minimal now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right. So it's all designed. It's a system. And a lot of people don't like systems. They'll buy one product from one company, one product from the other company. But it does work better if you stay within a system.
Yeah.
Most of the time. Some companies don't offer everything in that system. Some in that brand, within that brand, they don't offer all the products, all the maintenance products. Some companies manufacture great polishers but won't manufacture great car wash products. Some customers will fill the line with lower quality products, which is a shame, especially if they're making a good quality polish or something. Why don't they make a good quality wax?
Yeah.
Or sealant? And why don't they make good quality maintenance products, body shampoos and things like that? It's a bit of a shame. We think, and we've developed our product range over, not like any other company. So
No.
it was developed almost one product at a time.
Yes.
And we have stuck with the same, what do we call it? The same kind of thinking that we had at the very, very beginning.
Yep.
And it's tough to do that. You know, it really is tough to do that. Sometimes you want to change your
You want to go back
business
to the drawing board and try it again.
Well, you just want to. You know, it's hard. It's hard sometimes. Something's not selling. You know it's the right product. You know it's the best product that there is.
Yep.
Customers don't understand that product. It is the best product there is. You believe in it because you know that product is the best product that it could be.
Yeah.
But customers don't understand why that product is as good as it is. For instance, our body shampoo doesn't foam.
And that throws a lot of people off because they feel like they need to use more product.
Yeah, it's
just they don't see it soaping.
Yeah, it's just a gel, and it will foam if you overuse it.
Yeah.
And when you use it as per the recommendations on the container, it doesn't do what you normally expect it to do. And that affects sales. That hurts sales. And we know that if you make a product, we put X amount of surfactants, X amount of lubricants, which are the most important part of a body shampoo, in my opinion. And you can put all the different raw materials in it, and you get your balance. Then you can add other things which may not be necessary, which are always added, like foaming agents to get a lot of suds and a lot of foam, which is completely unnecessary for any hard surface, any glossy surface.
So a lot of companies flog that with that suds and stuff like that, and they go, "Oh yeah, suds better than everybody else's."
Yeah.
And
Yeah, the suds last longer, and well, it might be a correct claim. The suds last long, but the customer doesn't know that the suds shouldn't be there or unnecessary.
Yeah.
Foaming agents are designed for fibrous materials.
Okay.
So the product goes into the fibres, the foam expands and moves around the fibres, and that's why it's necessary. On paintwork and on glass, you don't need foaming agents. You don't need foam.
No.
It's just unnecessary. It doesn't assist in any way. All you need, or the most important thing you need, is lubrication.
Yeah. So you don't scratch when you're carrying the debris
around.
Exactly.
Yeah. You put your mitt down on that surface, and you've got lubrication suspending that mitt between the surface. So the surfactants are being allowed to do what they do. You haven't got that mechanical action like you would if you had less lubrication or no lubrication.
Yep.
And that's the most important thing. The cleaning power doesn't have to be so great, and we actually make sure that it's not too aggressive. So you're not stripping your sealant back, and that answers your question before.
Yeah.
One of the reasons your sealants last longer, if you're using our body shampoo, even if you're not using a final inspection sealant, is because it's not so aggressive. It does a good job of cleaning. It's very, very highly lubricating, so it does a good job of minimising those particles being pushed into the surface and creating marring. And it's free rinsing as well, which is it rinses very, very quickly and easily.
Yes.
it doesn't have any built-in wax, so it doesn't adjust the characteristics of the surface. So if you like that wax and the characteristics that wax have, our product won't adjust that. It won't apply a wax, and that's very important too, that it's not a 2-in-1 or a 4-in-1 or an 8-in-1 or wherever other marketing terms you can use for those type of products.
All in one bottle.
Yeah, it's not a 100-in-1 product, that cures cancer. It just washes the car properly, it doesn't leave anything behind, it provides a lot of lubrication, which is the most important thing, and it doesn't strip the sealant back faster than necessary. So if you've got a good sealant, you shouldn't need, and you'll know that you shouldn't need a very aggressive body shampoo.
No.
If the car's prepared well and it's got a good sealant on it, you won't need an aggressive body shampoo. You just have to get rid of the weekly grind.
Well, that was the most impressive thing that happened once my car was done by you. I think that was the difference between using your products and previous products that I was using. As soon as I started washing my car, I started smiling because I could see the difference straight away.
Yeah.
As soon as I started removing debris or washing it or watching the water bead off and shear straight off, I'd never seen that before.
Yeah. Well, you know that we did something that's...
Yeah, I was like, wow, look at that.
Sometimes when you buy
this
a new car...
This is making it easy.
When you buy a new car and have paint protection applied, you don't know if it's been applied because you haven't experienced that car before the paint protection. You don't know what it was like before, what characteristics it had before, and because it's a new car, it's always, even if it's naked, it's always going to have pretty good washing characteristics. It's a perfect surface.
Yeah.
But it's good when you have the car and you've lived with that car, and then you have the service applied by us and paint protection applied by us. You can actually see the results. You know that something has been done.
Yeah.
And you know that something has been applied, and you can see that because you can see those usually wild difference in characteristics, in washing characteristics. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a good indicator of whether the product's working or not. So when you see that you're not happy with those washing characteristics, it's time for reapplication.
Mm.
Yeah.
And when I first started getting into this, I've realised now that you've released a new product, I think I have to throw away my clay bar.
Yeah.
Because I don't think I need it anymore.
No, don't throw away the clay bar. No.
The eraser is amazing.
Yeah, the eraser's good. Yeah.
Why does that work so well? Why does that work so much better than the clay bar? I don't understand, but I love working with it.
Yeah.
Because it's 10 seconds, 20 seconds, it's done.
Yeah. Don't throw away your eraser. Don't throw away your clay bar, and I'll explain why. After I explain why the eraser is better than a clay bar. The eraser is faster. It is much faster. If you've used it, you'll understand how much faster it is. The eraser actually lasts longer than a clay bar. The eraser doesn't consume and hold on to particles, so it's not reintroducing those particles to the surface, which a clay bar does.
Right. Okay. So when it's actually moves debris, it moves it off and pushes it into the lubricant, does it?
It actually sucks the debris up off the surface. It picks it up off the surface.
Yeah.
Leaves it in the lube, which becomes a dirty slurry after a while. After you've used the eraser in a section, you'll find the lube's a little dirty, especially on a really bad car.
Okay.
It's a dirty slurry of contaminants. You remove those contaminants with a paintwork cloth.
Yep.
Along with the lube.
Yep.
And you move on to a new section, and they don't exist in the eraser. Whereas in the clay bar
it's stuck there and you have to
absorb those contaminants. And even though you're creating a new surface by moulding it into itself, you're still slowly filling that clay bar up with particles, with contaminants. And it creates more and more marring, pretty much on a linear scale, as you use it, as it fills with the contaminants. Whereas the eraser doesn't do that. It doesn't fill with contaminants. It's always fresh, it's always new. It doesn't wear, so it doesn't perform as well, obviously, across. And then the 10th car won't perform as well as it did on the first car.
Yeah.
Or for that's the way detailers look at it, because detailers use an eraser on one car and the next day is another car. But you guys don't do that. You guys use the eraser on your own car, and in 6 months' time you reuse it on your car, which wasn't as bad as it was 6 months ago.
Yeah.
So it's different. Every time we use it on a car that's just as bad as the car before.
Yeah.
So it actually doesn't last as long. An eraser won't last as long for a professional detailer as it will for an enthusiast.
Right.
But yeah, it doesn't create anywhere near as much marring, and 99.9% of the time it doesn't create any marring at all, which is great.
Yeah.
A clay bar will create marring. The marring has to be polished to be removed, and that's labour. and
Yeah.
labour is the most expensive component, and that increases the cost of preparing a vehicle significantly.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
if you can avoid using a clay bar, that's great. Now, why I said don't throw out your clay bar is because the eraser, unfortunately, is used on a machine,
Mhm.
and it can't fit into
Every spot.
all the areas under door handles and things
Mm.
like that. It's 99.9% of the car that will be that you'll be able to use an eraser on.
Yeah.
But keep your clay bar for those little areas that you can't
So I haven't thrown mine out.
get to until we find an eraser. And we will make an eraser that you can use by hand, and you can use to get into all those little areas. Then that'll be
With
it
a little
for the clay
handle
bar.
like that.
Clay bar was a fantastic invention, Japanese invention. Yeah, Japanese invention, marketed by Americans, so everything went smoothly. Japanese made a great product, Americans do what they do really well, which is market a product, and they marketed it very, very well.
Yeah.
And everyone got to enjoy this fantastic invention, but the time's pretty much up for a clay bar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Especially as a professional detailer, doing this, professional detailers will know that doing this back and forth action, very fatiguing action, day in, day out, is horrible. And if you can get rid of that, it's great. It's far less fatiguing to use an eraser than it is to use a clay bar.
I can only imagine being an enthusiast. I got sick of it.
Yeah.
Doing it as a profession,
Yeah.
I would have given up.
Detailers hate it, and
I'd have a fantastic right arm.
yeah, and if you're a one-man band or if you're a detailing shop owner,
Yeah.
you'll like it because you reduce your labour costs.
Yeah.
Yeah, your guy is when he's off the decontamination stage. One, he doesn't have to waste time polishing a car, and waste materials polishing a car,
Mm.
and two, he's much less fatigued.
Yeah.
He can do more work and he can do it more efficiently because he's not tired from having this back and forth action. It's very repetitive, monotonous, just horrible process. And it was necessary, and it wasn't too bad. We had nothing before the clay bar.
Yeah.
We used to remove contaminants with cutters, which is a really now you look back at it, it's just the simplest, most crude process of removing contaminants, and the heat actually the heat generated from polishing actually made those contaminants
Bed into the paint.
bed into the
Oh crap.
pretty much, yeah. Yeah, you're heating those contaminants up without removing some of them,
Mm.
and they're actually
They're in there now.
bed in. Yeah, they're strong. They're adhering to that paint more than they did before. So the eraser has and the clay bar has no heat build,
Mm.
and it picks up what's on the surface and removes it. But the eraser does it without holding any of those contaminants in the pad itself. So there's no marring, which means usually there's no 99.9% of the time, it's very, very rare, there's no polishing step required afterwards. With a clay bar, that mechanical action always induces marring, whether you see it or not. If you use this before a clay bar,
Yep.
use it after, you will see less gloss, and that less gloss is a result of the marring in the surface.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you have to polish after a clay bar.
And another thing, by you introducing the eraser, you've also been able to dilute your lube down.
Yeah.
So you can push that even further.
Yeah, 1 to
And-
10.
and
1 to 10. So
it makes it so cheap.
you've now reduced the cost of materials by 1 to 10. So you reduce labour and you've reduced the cost of materials down. Yeah, it is good.
It is good.
Yeah, it's all good. and the eraser came out to retail for roughly the same price as a clay bar. So it lasts longer, uses less lube, and you work it faster. It's all pluses. It's set for that one.
1%.
Yeah, that one.
Little spot you can't get to.
Yeah, not even 1% of the car that you can't get to underneath door handles and things like that. We still have to use a clay bar for now until we have our eraser, hand eraser. I'm not sure what we're going to call it. I'm not sure if you're.
But this is definitely in the pipeline. You're going to
definitely in the pipeline. It just doesn't work well by hand. We can't get it to work well by hand. We may have to modify the product to get it to work well by hand, to work quickly by hand.
I'm looking forward to seeing this.
Yeah, the eraser on an RO, because the RO makes so many different movements, it works well. But by hand, it just doesn't work that well. You can try it, get your eraser, and it works well brand new because it's very, very effective when it's brand new out of the packet, and just rub it back and forth across your surface. Then use it on the RO, and you'll find that it takes 10 times as long to use by hand, to remove those contaminants by hand than it does on
Another thing I wanted to bring up was your power wheel cleaner.
Yeah.
But you've only got one wheel cleaner and one non-acid or whatever. Why?
We mucked around with a non-acidic wheel cleaner, a pH neutral wheel cleaner that worked well. Didn't work any better than power wheel cleaner. It was more expensive than power wheel cleaner. It had to be more expensive than power wheel cleaner. And we didn't see anything wrong with power wheel cleaner, and we didn't release that product because we didn't feel there was a need for it. And all it was we made a mistake thinking that we should have a pH neutral wheel cleaner to sell to our customers, to appeal to customers who wanted a pH neutral wheel cleaner. It goes back to what we were talking about before. We just make the products we want. We want to make, and if you feel you want to purchase them, then you can. Our wheel cleaner is acidic. It's less acidic than a tomato. Tomato juice is more acidic than our wheel cleaner. It is organic, not that that matters.
Yeah.
Whether it's organic or not, whatever level, if it's acidic, it's acidic.
Well, if it's less organic, less acidic than a tomato, then I'm not exactly worried about that going on my wheel.
It's perfectly safe.
And doesn't sound like it's nasty.
It's the same basic wheel cleaner since 2006. About 1 million people have used it, and we haven't had any issues ever. Most wheels aren't an alloy finish.
Right.
Most wheels are painted.
Yes.
I don't know of any production vehicle that's being driven on the road that doesn't have a painted or coated wheel. So it's either silver paint, which is exactly the same paint as the body.
Yes.
It's 2-pack, clear over base, and you would, you have zero issues using any kind of wheel cleaner on the actual wheel. Or it's an aluminium wheel with a clear coating on it. Very, very rarely that you'll have a wheel that has no coating on it. But even if you do, our wheel cleaner is safe.
Yeah.
Safe on the paint from the brake calipers on most cars. If you've got a very rare exotic material being used in the brakes somewhere, you might want to test it first. But power wheel cleaner is very, very, very safe. It is acidic though. I'm not going to say it's pH neutral because it's not. It is acidic, but it's not very acidic, and it's less acidic than tomato juice. It's less acidic than vinegar. If you put tomato on your wheel, you put vinegar on your wheel, and you think that was safe, power wheel cleaner is even safer.
Well, that's reassuring then.
As far as the acidity is concerned, yeah. We're actually going.
I don't know now. I can't actually think of many more things that I've...
We can wash the Monaro.
Well, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
I really want to see what happens with that.
6 months. So tell me, why did you wash it for 6 months? Hopefully you're busy at work. You're so busy.
Well, I am busy at work, but I think also because it was so glossy and so clean and so shiny, I literally didn't want to touch it. And I got to the point where I nearly went mad. I was going to go out and buy orange cones and put them around the car just to keep people away from it.
Yeah.
And I was happy for dust just to sit on it because that's easier to remove than anything else. It'll just come straight off.
Yeah.
And the first thing I was going to be nervous about is putting a mitt or anything near it and just doing that and going, please don't scratch, please don't scratch, don't do anything.
Yeah.
I think that's what made me so nervous.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of glad that I have left it for so long because now you're going to have a chance to clean it for me, and we're going to have a bit of fun with it, and we'll see what
and
has
hopefully
happened.
FMJ works.
Well, hopefully. I mean, it's been sitting in a workshop full of dust, exhaust fumes, all sorts of nasty stuff that are flying up, and then it's just sitting down on it.
A bit greasy, and the dust is
it's going to be a good test.
Grease, yeah. There's a few different materials on there. Yeah. I'm eager to see how well it held up. Yeah. So it's been about 6 months.
Yeah, almost
6 months.
Just about 6 months.
Not one wash.
Not one single wash.
Fantastic, good test.
Plenty of cobwebs.
Yeah.
The leather still smells nice. It's nice and fresh in there.
For anyone that doesn't, or anyone that's interested, it was the Monaro that we detailed.
That was back in
November last year. We did a transformation detail on the car, and we applied full metal jacket paint protection to it. And we're going to give it a wash after 6 months with no washing and see how it comes up.
Not too upset with me, are you?
No, it was a lot of work that went into that car. a lot of extra work that went into it as well. So
Hey, look, I still stand there and appreciate what the car is. And
it's your car. It's your car.
It looks amazing.
Once we hand it back to you, but it's always good to see a car that's well maintained when you put that much effort into it, and you know, we're paid for our work, but these fellas don't make a lot of money. It's half the reason we do this job is because it's so satisfying, and it's difficult to see a car that you put a lot of effort into just destroyed so quickly.
It's clean underneath. Trust
Oh
me.
no, your car's no problem. Your car will be fine. Your car will be fine. Yeah, it's hard to see a car that a customer drives away and then 3 or 4 months later,
That would break my heart.
scratches everywhere, and it brings it back and he pays us to do it, but it hurts a little bit. If you really care about your job, it's hard to see your work destroyed too quickly. I'm sure anyone who does really quality work and really loves their job doesn't like, any cabinet maker who makes a really nice table doesn't want to see it all scratched up soon, and they want their work to last. And our work's not like that. It's always going to be used. The cars should be used, and we like customers who use their cars.
Yeah.
Take them out and use them for what they're meant to do. And it's good that you have that coating on it, because it helps keep it the way that we want it to look for as long as possible.
Well, what's the distance between your workshop and my workshop?
A minute.
A minute.
Drive.
Well, kilometres
2 minutes
wise,
drive.
it would be a couple of k's.
Is it?
It would
2
be.
minutes drive?
Yeah, about 2 minutes drive, maybe
Yeah.
5 kilometres, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's all the driving is done.
Well, if you took a photo of the odometer, I don't think it'd be much further than what it was last time.
Let's go down and wash it.
All right,
Wash it.
we'll go wash it.